The rumors about you are getting so out of hand right now that I actually have to sit you down for this one. Because there are two very specific people, two very real people who have been talking about you behind your back. And what they are saying is not what you think. I'm not going to be vague about this today. I'm not going to give you some fuzzy, someone out there is thinking about you energy. No. Spirit is being very, very specific with me right now. And it's telling me there are two distinct people who separate conversations to completely different opinions of you floating around out there. And by the time I'm done telling you what they actually said, you are going to understand exactly why this video is called what it is called. So grab your coffee, grab your tea, get your cozy blanket and sit all the way down, because we are going deep today. And it's shocking. It's genuinely shocking. Okay, let's go. I want you to picture something before we get into the details, because Spirit is showing me an image that perfectly captures what's happening around you energetically right now, around your energy. Imagine a wildfire in a dry canyon. It starts with a single tiny spark, one word whispered in the dark, one comment dropped into a text thread. And before you know it, the whole forest is in fire. The flames jump from person to person, from conversation to conversation, moving faster than you could even ever run after them to put them out. And here is the thing about wildfires that most people don't understand until it's too late. You cannot fight fire with more fire. Every time you try to defend yourself, every time you try to correct the record line, every time you try to explain what really happened, you are just adding more fuel, more oxygen, more heat. The fire doesn't care about your intentions. It just burns. So the only way to survive a wildfire of whispers is to let it burn itself out while you stand tall in the clearing, untouched, unbothered, and completely at peace. Because you know exactly who you are, and no spark, no rumor, no distorted version of the truth can ever take that away from you. Hold onto that image. We're going to come back to it. So here's what's happening energetically around you right now. Whether you felt it or not, you have been the topic of conversation more than you realize, in more rooms than you realize, for longer than you realize. And I want you to really let this land, because some of you are the type who thinks, I keep to myself, I don't cause drama, nobody's thinking about me. And listen, I do understand that. That has nothing to do with it. People don't need a reason to talk about you, they just do. Your name comes up in kitchens you have never stood in. It comes up in cars you have never sat in. It comes up in text threads you are not part of, group chats you got quietly removed from, phone calls that happen after everyone else has gone to bed and it's just two people, low voices saying your name like it means something. And it does mean something. That's the part that's about to blow your mind. Because today, it's not just people are talking. Today, Spirit is bringing through two specific individuals. Two, not a vague cloud of gossip. Two actual people, two actual months, two actual sets of opinions, and they are widely different from each other. One of them you know very well. One of them barely knows you at all. And then contrast is exactly why this message is going to hit so hard. Because you are about to hear the same person. You described in two completely opposite ways by two completely different people. And somewhere in the middle of that contradiction is the actual truth about who you are. Stick with me. This is going to get good. I'm going to be 100% real with you right now. Two people decided to take my name and turn it into a story I didn't write. And I know what you're thinking. Why does this even matter? Why give energy to people who are clearly working through their own stuff by making you the main character in their internal drama? But here's the thing. Your reputation is what others think, but your character is who you actually are. And I'm not here to defend myself today. No, I'm here to reclaim my narrative, because we are all been there, right? That gut punch feeling when you hear something about yourself that isn't true, and your stomach drops, and for a split second, you wonder if maybe somehow you are the version of yourself that other people have invented. You are not. Let me tell you about these two people, and you are going to understand exactly why. Let's start with the first person, because their energy is coming through the strongest right now. This is someone who used to be close to you. Not a stranger, not an acquaintance, someone who at one point had access to you, your time, your energy, maybe even your home, maybe your late night phone calls, maybe your secrets. This could be an old friend, this could be a former co-worker who sat 2 feet from you every day for years. This could be someone you dated, someone you almost married, someone who used to know your coffee order and your family drama and the sound of your laugh from across the room. And I'm feeling like this connection ended in a way that wasn't fully resolved. It wasn't a clean break. There was no big final conversation where everything got said. It just sort of faded or cracked, or something happened that neither of you ever fully addressed out loud. And that unfinished business, that's exactly why they can't stop talking about you. Here is what's wild about this person. They talk about you constantly, and it's not coming from a place of hate. I need you to hear that clearly, because your gut reaction is probably to assume the worst. Am I right? Yeah, the worst. No. It's actually the opposite of what you'd expect. The person brings you up in conversations that have nothing to do with you. Somebody will mention something totally unrelated, a job opportunity, a trip, a new restaurant, and somehow, within minutes, they have found a way to bring your name into it. Oh, that reminds me of, and then your name. Every time. Yeah. Like you are a reference point they cannot stop using to measure everything else in their life. And when people who know this person well enough to notice patterns have pointed it out, why do you bring them up so much? This person gets weirdly defensive about it. They deflect, they laugh it off, but they don't stop doing it. They cannot do that, actually. What they are actually saying about you, though, this is where it gets interesting, is that they underestimated you badly. They are telling people in their own words some version of, I didn't realize how strong they actually were, or I didn't give them enough credit, or looking back, I was kind of intimidated by them, and I don't think I ever admitted that. Do you understand what that means? This person who at one point maybe had the upper hand in your dynamic, who maybe made you feel small or unseen, or like you were the one who needed them more than they needed you, has quietly flipped the script in their own head. They watched you rebuild yourself after whatever happened between you, and it rattled them. It's rattling them right now, actually, in real time. Because Spirit is showing me that something recent, and I mean recent, like within the last few weeks, brought your name back into their orbit. Maybe they saw something you posted. Maybe someone mentioned you. Maybe your name just popped into their head out of nowhere on a random Friday, and they couldn't shake it off the rest of the day. And in that moment, this person felt something uncomfortable. A little bit of grief, a little bit of regret, a little bit of, whoa, I really let something real slip through my fingers, didn't I? So here's the rumors this person is spreading. And I want you to sit with how strange and backwards this is. They are telling people that you were too much. Yeah, that you were intense, that you wanted things too fast, that you needed too much from them. But underneath the story, that story, and I mean right underneath it, like one layer down, is the real truth, which is that they couldn't keep up with you. They were not ready for someone who actually showed up fully, someone who actually meant what they said, someone who didn't play the little games that make relationships feel easy in the short term and hollow in the long term. You made them confront their own emotional laziness, and instead of doing the work, they turned around and called your depth too much. That's not a reaction of you. Oh, that's not a reflection of you. That is a full confession dressed up as a criticism. That's there. Now let's talk about the second person, because this one is going to surprise you even more. This person is almost the opposite situation. They don't know you well at all. In fact, I'm getting that you two have maybe had a handful of real interactions. A few conversations, Maybe you crossed paths at work, at a gathering, in a shared spaces, online, of course online, somewhere casual and low stakes on the surface. This is not someone with history with you. This is someone forming an opinion from the outside, from a distance, based on what they have observed rather than what they actually know. And yet, and this is the shocking part, they talk about you almost as much as the first person does. Isn't that strange? Someone who barely knows you, spending that much mental real estate on you. Here is what's actually happening with this second person. They are fascinated by you. Yeah, strange. Genuinely, almost uncomfortably fascinated. Something about the way you carry yourself doesn't fit into the categories they are used to sorting people into. And it's driving them a little bit crazy in the best and worst way. You walk into a room and you don't perform the way people expect. You are calm when people expect you to be anxious. You are quiet when people expect you to explain yourself. You laugh at things other people are too nervous to laugh at. You have this way of listening, really listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk. Sorry. That makes people feel like you are studying them, even when you are not trying to. And this second person has noticed all of it. And instead of asking you directly, hey, what's your deal? They have been asking everyone else instead. They have been asking mutual acquaintance questions about you, small, seemingly innocent questions at first. How long have you known them? Are they always like that? Do they seem okay to you? But the questions have been getting more specific over time. This person has essentially been quietly building a profile of you in their head using second-hand information, filling in the blanks with their own imagination, wherever their facts run out. And here is the thing about filling in blanks with imagination. People almost always imagine something bigger, stranger, and more dramatic than the truth. So, the rumors that's spreading from this second person isn't really about anything you did. It's a rumor about a mystery. People are literally saying things like, there is something going on with them. I just cannot figure out what. Or, I get a weird feeling I cannot explain. Or they seem like they are carrying something. And I need you to understand, that's not an insult. That's a compliment, wearing a disguise. People only say that about someone who has actual depth, actual weight, actual presence. Nobody sits around trying to psychoanalyze a person who has nothing going on beneath the surface. This person is intrigued by you in a way that borders on obsession. And instead of admitting that to your face, of course, they have turned into gossip, because gossip feels safer than vulnerability. It always does. Yeah. Here is where the two stories collide, because this is the part that's going to give you chills, goosebumps. Both of these people, the one who who knows you immediately, and the ones who barely knows you at all, have landed independently without talking to each other on almost the exact same conclusion, that there is more to you than what's visible on the surface. One of them learned that the hard way, through years of closeness that ended in something unresolved. The other one is learning it in real time, through pure observation, without ever getting close enough to actually find out what it means. Two completely different vantage points, arriving at the same shocking realization. You are not who people initially assume you to be. And everyone around you can feel it even when they cannot name it. Now, I want to be honest with you always, about the uncomfortable side of this too, because I promised you the good, the bad, and everything in between. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Have you ever felt like the world is talking about a version of you that doesn't even exist? That's exactly what's happening here. Not everything being said about you is flattering, and you deserve to hear that plainly instead of having it hidden behind the spiritual language. There is a version of both of these stories where the words being used are less generous. The first person, in their more defensive moments, usually when they are venting to someone else who takes their side automatically, has used words like difficult, too much, a lot to describe you. Not because those words are true, but because admitting the real truth, that they miscalculated and lost something valuable, is a much harder thing to say out loud than they were just difficult. It's a defensive mechanism. It's easier to shrink you down into a floor than to sit with the discomfort of their own mistake. And the second person, in their more insecure moments, has occasionally framed their fascination with you as suspicion instead of admiration. When you don't explain yourself, when you don't overshare, when you keep your business to yourself the way any reasonable person is allowed to do, some people interpret that silence as something sinister, simply because they don't have the emotional maturity to sit with not knowing everything. So, there have been a few moments here and there, nothing vicious, nothing designed to actually hurt you, but a few moments of I don't totally trust them, or there is something they are not telling us. And I want you to hear the truth underneath that too. People who are hiding nothing don't need to explain themselves to satisfy other people's curiosity. And the fact that you don't feel the need to perform your inner life for public consumption is not a red flag. It's a boundary, of course. And boundaries make people who don't have any uncomfortable. Yeah, really uncomfortable. It's honestly shocking how fast a lie can travel while the truth is still putting its shoes on. Think about that. By the time you even hear the whisper, it's already gone through 5 different people, each one adding their own little twist, their own little assumption, their own little projection. That's how wildfires work. One spark lands in dry grass, and suddenly the whole hillside is glowing orange. And here is what I want you to remember. The truth doesn't need a megaphone. It just needs time. That's it. Lies burn hot and fast, but they burn out. The truth just sits there, solid and unmovable, waiting for the smoke to clear. And your truth, who you actually are, not who these two people have decided you are, is so much more solid than you realize. Here is something I really need you to sit with, because it's the heart of everything Spirit is showing me today. Today I'm a little bit speechless. Both of these rumors, the admiring one and the suspicious one, are coming from the exact same source. They are both reactions to the fact that you are not easy to fully read, and not easy to fully hold, and not easy to fully predict. People love to say they want authenticity and depth in the people around them. But the truth is, most people are only comfortable with a controlled, predictable amount of it. The moment they encounter someone who has real layers, someone who has actually lived through things, who has actually grown, who has actually changed the shape of who they are, it disorients them. It disoriented people, and disoriented people either turn that disorientation into admiration, like your first person eventually did, or they turn into suspicion, like your second person is currently doing. But both reactions are proof of the exact same thing. You register as real to people. You register as someone who cannot be summarized in one sentence. And that is rare. That is genuinely rare. And it's the reason your name keeps traveling through rooms you're not even in. If they are talking about you behind your back, it's because you are already miles ahead of them. Let that sink in for a moment, because it's not just a nice thing to say to make you feel better. It's energetically true. People who are focused on their own growth, their own healing, their own path forward, don't have the time or the energy to sit around dissecting someone else's life. The fact that both of these people, one who knew you and one who barely does, are spending this much time thinking about you, talking about you, trying to figure you out, tells you everything you need to know about where they are in their own journey versus where you are. You are moving. Yeah, you are evolving, you are becoming, and they are stuck. Yeah, they are stuck watching you from a distance, trying to make sense of everything they cannot quite reach. I also want to address something that's coming through really strongly right now, which is the exhaustion. Because if you're anything like most of the people I talk to, hearing people are talking about you doesn't just feel flattering. It feels tiring. Yeah, it feels like one more thing you have to manage, one more layer of self-conscious you have to carry around, one more reason to second guess yourself before you walk into a room. And I want to gently push back on that reaction, because I think you have spent a long time trying to control how you are perceived, trying to manage the narrative, trying to make sure nobody even ever has anything weird to say about you. And here's the truth that's going to set you free today. You are never going to be able to control it anyway. People were always going to talk. People were always going to fill in blanks with their own imagination. People were always going to project their own insecurities, their own regrets, their own unresolved feelings onto you, no matter how carefully you behaved. So, the only real question is whether you are going to keep spending your energy trying to manage other people's stories about you, or whether you are finally going to put that energy back into just being exactly who you are and letting the stories fall where they fall. This isn't just about me. This isn't just about you. This is about anyone who's ever been misunderstood, anyone who's ever had their name passed around rooms they have never stepped foot in, anyone who's ever had to sit with this strange, hollow feeling of knowing that someone out there is telling a story about you that you never agreed to be a character in. Validation from others is a lease. Yeah, self-love is ownership. A lease expires, you know that. It can be revoked. It depends on someone else's mood, someone else's opinion, someone else's ever-changing feelings about you. But ownership is permanent. When you own your truth, when you own your story, when you own your worth, nobody can evict you from it. Nobody can take it away. Nobody can even touch it. That's what I want for you. Not a temporary lease on feeling okay about yourself based on what other people are or are not saying, but full, permanent, unshakable ownership of who you know yourself to be. Because here is what's actually happening underneath both of these rumors once you strip away all the noise. The first person's story is really about their own missed opportunity. It has almost nothing to do with you, and everything to do with the moment they realized, too late, that they had something rare in front of them and didn't know how to hold onto it. Did nothing. That's their story to carry, not yours. You don't owe them closure. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe them a response if they ever do reach out, which, by the way, Spirit is showing me is a real possibility in the coming weeks. Something is stirring here. A message, a run in a mutual friend, bringing it up unpromoted. Whatever it looks like, be ready for it, but don't chase it. Let it come to you if it's going to come at all. And the second person's story is really about their own discomfort with mystery. Some people cannot function around a question mark. They need everything labeled, categorized, explained, resolved. And when they meet someone like you, someone who is a whole, layered, sometimes contradictory human being who doesn't feel like obligated to hand out a user manual for their own personality. It short circuits something in them. That's not your problem to fix either. You're not required to make yourself smaller or more explainable just so someone else can feel more comfortable. Their discomfort with not fully understanding you is information about them, not a flaw in you. Now here's the part I really want to leave you with, because this is where their humor stops being about them and starts being about you. Every single thing being whispered about you right now, the admiration disguised as gossip, the suspicion disguised as curiosity, the regret disguised as criticism, all of it is orbiting around one central truth that neither of these two people has fully said out loud yet. But both of them clearly feel. You are becoming someone. Not you have potential. Not you might become someone someday. You are actively, visibly, undeniably in the process of becoming a fuller, more solid, more undeniable version of yourself. And people can feel that shift happening even when they cannot articulate what it is they are feeling. That is what all this talking is actually about. It was never really about anything you did wrong. And it was never really some neutral little bit of gossip either. It's people reacting in real time to watching someone change shape in front of them and not quite knowing what to do with that. So here's what I want you to walk away with today. Their rumors are going to keep happening. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that after this video, everyone's suddenly going to stop talking about you, because that's not how any of this works. And honestly, once you understand what's actually driving it, you will not need them to stop. Let the person who knows you sit with their regret. Let the person who barely knows you sit with their curiosity. Neither one of those things requires anything from you. You don't have to defend yourself to people who are working through their own stuff by projecting it onto you. You don't have to shrink yourself to make anyone's confusion more comfortable. And you definitely don't have to spend one more minute of your life trying to manage a narrative that was never fully in your control to begin with. Let's look at the facts, because emotions can be messy. The facts are this: you are still standing, you are still growing, you are still here, listening to these words, letting them land, letting them shift something inside you. I hope so. That's not an accident, that's evidence of something real. The facts are that two separate people on two separate paths with two completely different relationships to you have both come to the same conclusion: that you are not forgettable, you are not simple, and you are not someone they can just shrug off and move on from. That's not a coincidence, that's a pattern. And the pattern is pointing to something true about you that has nothing to do with any rumors, any whisper, any distorted version of events being passed around in group chats, and late night phone calls. I want to keep this private, but I wanted, but the noise just got too loud to ignore. And now that we've sat with it together, now that we have looked at it from every angle, now that we've named both people and both stories and both versions of the truth, I hope you can see what I see. The wildfire is going to burn. Let it. You don't have to chase after it with a bucket of explanations. You don't have to stand in the middle of the flames trying to correct every spark. Just stand in the clearing. Stand in the truth of who you are and let the fire burn itself out while you stay exactly, solidly, unshakably out, or you. What you can do, and this is the part that actually matters, is keep being exactly the kind of person who makes rooms go quiet when you walk in, who makes people replay conversations in their heads hours later, who makes an old connection lie awake, wondering what could have been, and who makes a near stranger unable to stop asking questions about you to everyone but you. That's not a burden. That's evidence, information. That's proof that you have stopped being invisible, that you have stopped shrinking to make other people comfortable. And that whatever you've been through to get to this point actually changed something real in you. People don't talk this much about someone who doesn't matter. So let them talk. Let them talk. Let both of them talk. Because underneath every single word of it, what they are really saying, even if they never say it directly, even if it takes them years to admit it, even to themselves, is that they see something in you that they cannot stop thinking about. And that, more than any piece of gossip, more than any rumor, more than anything either of these two people will ever say behind your back, is the real truth of who you are. And one more thing before you go. I want you to just take a second and let this actually land in your body instead of just your head, because that's where the real shift happens. Feel it. Breathe into it. You are not the version of yourself that either of these two people think you are. You are not too much. You are not a mystery to be solved. You are simply someone who finally stopped performing for an audience, and the world is still catching up to what it looks like on you. Let them talk, let them wonder, let them regret, and let them speculate. You keep walking forward. Because the truest thing anyone could ever say about you right now, in this exact moment, is the thing nobody has said out loud yet. That you are exactly, finally becoming who you were always supposed to be. And I want you to promise me one thing before we end today. Do not let someone else's insecurity become your identity. Don't let their confusion become your self-doubt. Don't let their gossip become your truth. You are the author of your story. You always were. You always will be. 2 people decided to write their own version, but their version was never about you, it was about them. So promise me, you will stop reading their chapters and start writing your own again. Because the next chapter of your life is not going to be defined by what someone said about you in a dark room. It's going to be defined by what you do next, in full daylight, with your head held high and your heart fully open. And if this resonated with you even a little bit, drop a comment and let me know which person hit closer to home. The one who knew you or the one who is still trying to figure you out. Because I read every single one. And I would love to know your story. Sending you so much love today, and I will see you in the next one.